Hello again, and welcome to the final session in interactive media for this semester. This week we're going to be looking at processing and video, and you'll see that when we get into this that using video in processing is not that different to dealing with still images, but it opens up lots of interesting possibilities for us. Before we get too much into that, I would like to encourage you all to fill out the student feedback survey that is open now. We really do take account of this. I know sometimes almost everything you do these days, it requires you to fill out a survey after you do it, and you wonder whether anyone takes any notice of these things. I can assure you that we really do take account of what you say in these surveys. They really do matter, and we really do change the subject in response to student feedback. So I'd encourage you to complete the survey, and also particularly encourage you to fill in your comments about how we can make the subject better. If there were things that you didn't like about it, please tell us what they are. And if there's things you think we could do that would improve it, likewise tell us what they are. So please do complete the feedback survey. The interesting video of the week this week is quite a famous one, I suppose, in these circles. It's called Bot and Dolly. I'll let you play it for yourself. I won't try and play it for you in this video, but the links are all there in the slides. This is essentially sort of two robotic arms manipulating projection surfaces, and if the computer knows where the projection surfaces are and can control what is being projected, you can get some very, very interesting and some very interesting effects. So watch the video and check that out, and we'll discuss it in the labs. So what we're going to look at today is getting video into processing, manipulating video, and then we'll touch on real-time video analysis. First of all, just using some basic techniques in processing, and then using a computer vision library called OpenCV that has a lot of very powerful image processing and analysis algorithms in it. So let's jump into this. So in processing, video is basically just a series of still images. And if these are shown with a sufficient frame rate, that is above around about 15 frames per second, then people watching it will perceive continuous motion. And in terms of how you manipulate video in processing, how you access it and how you work with it, there are two sort of main objects that we'll be looking at. Movie is one that allows you to load in and play video files, and Capture allows you to access video streams from cameras like the built-in webcam that is built into your laptop, like the one I'm using here to make this video. And in fact, I don't know if you've noticed in the past, but in fact what I'm using to record the video from my webcam is a little processing sketch that you can see here. And we are using the capture object in this sketch. But I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's get that out of the way, and let's take a look at playing video. So I'll open up some code for us to take a look at. So this code simply plays this video file here. So this video file I'll just open up in the operating system. It's called transit.mov, and it's a picture, I suspect, of the moon maybe passing across the face of the sun. So quite a cool video in itself. So I've just played that using the operating system, but we can also play it in our processing sketch. So the things to notice here that we are using the processing.video libraries. We are using the object movie, so we're creating an instance of type movie. We have a pretty standard setup method here, which is doing nothing much except setting the size of our screen and setting a black background. Then we're creating an instance of this movie object and saying we want to load the transit.mov movie file. We need to pass in a pointer to the sketch that is running. So we use the this variable for this. We're not really going to get into what that means in great depth. We'll talk about it. Well, no, we won't talk about it, but those of you that have done Java programming will already be aware of that. But it's simply a pointer to the current sketch, not so important. From our point of view, you can think of this as just a line of code that loads the transit.mov movie file in. And we set the movie file to play in a continuous loop. So when it gets to the end of the file, it will loop back to the beginning and play again. Two other things to point out. In our draw method, we are using the image method to draw the current frame from the movie in our processing window. So it's pretty much like we would put a still image in our processing window. We'd use exactly the same kind of syntax, except we pass in a movie object. And the other thing to notice is that we have this special method here, movie event. So this is the method that is called when there is a new frame of video ready for us from the video file. So in this method, we simply put in, we call the read method on the movie object, which will read that next file of video for us. So read the next frame of video for us, not the next file, the next frame of video for us. So every time there's a new frame of video available, this method is triggered and we simply read it in. So that's all the code you need to write to play a movie. Let's just run that to confirm that it does in fact do what it should. And there we can see our movie file loading in and playing in our processing window. So that's all good and hopefully fairly straightforward. And if you look at the documentation for movie, you will see that it has a number of different methods for manipulating playback. So you can change the speed that you play back the movie, play it back at double speed, half speed, things like that. You can also tell it whether to loop at the end of the movie file to go back to the beginning or not. And you can tell the movie to pause. So if you're in the middle of playing back a long movie and you want to pause playback, you can do that using the pause method. So let us take a look at a little sketch that makes use of some of those. So this is movie demo. So here we have a movie demo. Nothing much different in our setup method. We're still just setting up the movie object and telling it to load in that transit.mov file. We still have our movie event method, which reads the next frame of video when it's available. We still have draw here, which draws the frame of video into our processing window. We have a couple of extra little methods. We have mouse pressed. So whenever I press the mouse button, I would hope that the movie would pause playback. When the mouse is released, so when the mouse button is lifted up, I want the movie to start playing back again. And we have a key pressed method here. So if the user pushes down the 1 button, we'll make the movie play back at regular speed. If they push 2 down, we'll make the movie play back at double speed. And if they hit R, then the movie should play back at -1 speed, that is regular speed but in reverse. So let us run movie demo and see how we go. So there is our movie playing back at regular speed, just as we did before. I'll let that loop back to the beginning, which should happen around about now. If I hit 2, playback now proceeds at double speed. Back to 1 again. If I hold the mouse button down, like so, the playback pauses, and if when I release the mouse button, it resumes. And if I hit the R key, the movie will play in reverse. I noticed when I tried this before, it took a little while to sort itself out when it got back to the beginning of the file. But so we'll leave that there. But that's how the movie object works, and that's some key methods in it for manipulating the playback of a video file. Now, one thing I want to say before I wrap up this little short video on movie playback is it's important to realize that each frame of our video is just an image. So all these image processing techniques that we've been looking at in previous weeks, that you can apply, image filters, and all kinds of techniques like that, you know, manipulating the brightness, tinting, all that kind of stuff. All of those things you can apply to a still image. You can also apply to every single frame of a video image. So technically speaking, movie is a subclass of the processing image class. So that means we can manipulate the pixel buffer just as we have manipulated the pixel buffer for still images in last week and the week before. So let's take a little look at an example. This is the Pixelate. Get rid of the last one. So this setup and so on is pretty much the same as before, loading in our movie file. But our draw method is a little bit different. Instead of using the movie event callback that we used before, that movie event method, we're doing it slightly differently now. We now say if movie file has a frame available, if mov.available equals true, then read in that new frame. And if there isn't a frame available, then don't do anything. So this is in effect the same thing we were doing before with the with that movie event callback. So let's take a look at what happens. So if there is a frame of video available, we read it in. Then we load the pixel buffer. So we're treating the movie object just like it's an image object. We're calling load pixels, which loads up the pixel buffer for us. And then we're going through, and if you recall, I think it was 3 weeks ago, we did a little example where we manipulated the still image and we applied a pixelation effect. We broke the image up into, I think it was 50 by 50 chunks, and set the color of each chunk to be the color of the pixel at that point. And that gave us this pixelated image effect. We were doing exactly the same algorithm here for that, to apply the pixelation effect to each frame of video. So when we run it, we should hopefully see our video playback with pixelation. And as you can see, that's the effect we're getting. So we're effectively resampling the video file at a much lower resolution and then playing it back at that resolution. So the point of doing that was just to show you that you can treat a frame of video just like a still image, and you can apply any of the effects that we've been applying in the past few weeks to still images to that frame of video as well. So I'll end this little introduction video here, and in the next video we're going to look at using a video camera to bring video in from your to bring video in from a camera that's connected to your computer and manipulate the stream of live video and also analyze it.